what was the second thing?
Yeah, I will just do this very quickly, okay? Just so that you very quickly, I got to reclaim my time.
Y-
So the question I'm asking you, you need to be I mean, you have to demonstrate that it would
Oh, the
actually be dysfunctional.
dysfunctionality.
That's your claim.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to hear about demonstrations that religiosity can lead some people to become more dysfunctional. I would need to know how the nation itself is going to become dysfunctional because you get rid of uh the part in the First Amendment that says that Congress has to respect every establishment of religion. I need to know how does that make the nation actually dysfunctional to
The
get rid of the establishment clause?
the studies I was referring to, they weren't talking about like it wasn't about individuals. It's about the country as a one does it by state basis. The other does it was a more national study. But for example, I mean, I can prove that even according to you, there seems like some pretty damning information because I'm pretty sure that you're not in favor of STDs, teen pregnancies, suicide, low life
You haven't
expectancy,
shown how any of
homicides.
those things you haven't shown
I'm
how any of
I'm in the
those things would
process of it.
suddenly go boom
I'm in the
because you
process
got
of it.
rid of the establishment clause. Like, for
I'm
instance,
in the
I'll
process of
explain
it.
I'll explain the contradiction. I'll explain the contradiction in terms real quick. Even if it were the case that right this second, okay, religious people, it was correlated with teen pregnancy and all of these different things. These people are free to exercise that religion now. So wouldn't it be the case if they weren't free to exercise that, that would actually lower those rates?
I don't know what that could possibly have been an argument for because what you find is all those things I brought up are highest among the most religious states. So the more religious you are, the more in this country, the more teen pregnancy you have, the
Yes, but
more
if
people get
Congress doesn't have to
STDs.
respect the establishment of religion anymore, right? They can say that you can't practice unhealthy religions, can't they?
What?
Answer my question.
That
Couldn't they
didn't
say
make
that?
any sense.
What didn't make any sense? But let me do
So
you want me
you
to
you
ask the question again? If Congress did not have to respect the establishment of religion anymore, then unhealthy religions, right? Or religions they deem to be
you're
unhealthy for the
advocating for
nation.
banning
I didn't
Christianity.
advocate for anything. When did I
Yes, you
make any
did.
advocation for anything ever?
Just now?
I'm asking when? When was that an advocation? I'm asking you simple questions about your worldview. Do you know what the difference is?
Yes, I do.
So great. So then where was there ever an advocacy for X from me?
Okay, my
Nowhere.
apologies.
You
But
fucking
what
made it
you
up. So that aside, I'm gonna ask you again. If
Mhm.
it were the case that the establishment clause was gone, couldn't Congress then not respect religions which were unhealthy for this society? Can you
That
answer my question, dude?
it's such a bizarre question that doesn't make any sense because
Oh my god, what is
the
what is
establishment clause
bizarre?
doesn't ban religions. It says that Congress will not make a state religion. It doesn't say that
Uh-huh.
Congress doesn't have the ability to ban religion. It says that Congress will not impose religious
No,
law
it
onto the
does. It says
population.
the free exercise thereof. You are wrong, sir. So,
Well, I'm
yes, if
talking
you got rid of the establishment clause, the free exercise thereof would be gone. So,
no,
yes,
the
yes.
establishment clause is not the same thing as you are allowed to practice your religion.
Yes, it is. It
It's
says the free
absolutely not.
exercise thereof. I'll read it for you, sir. Here, we'll read it because apparently you don't even know what it says. Okay. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Do you understand? The free exercise thereof. So if you got rid of that, they could prohibit the free exercise thereof, correct?
Sure. So we would get rid of
Okay, great.
Christianity,
Oh,
which is
wow, you
the
just answered a
STD
fucking
religion in this
question. Can we
country.
get you a medal for actually answering the question? So, yes, it
Jeez,
is
dude,
indeed the
calm
case.
down.
It is indeed. Well, dude, I have to pull the answers out of you because you don't want to answer them. This is what I was talking about by bad faith.
It's
So,
not
real
bad
quick,
faith.
it's bad faith. Just answer the questions, dude. So, then it is the case that if Congress then no longer had to respect the free exercise of religion, they could actually go through and stop the bad behaviors of bad religions, couldn't they?
Yeah, which would be Christianity.
Okay, so do you think that there's any other religions in the United States which are worse than Christianity?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, if Christians were in power and stopped the free exercise thereof of those religions, wouldn't that be good?
No, I don't think that would be good.
Oh, okay. So then, when you say shouldn't, Christians shouldn't be in power, right?
Never said
Your
that.
that's your whole claim. Your
No,
whole
it's
claim is that Christianity shouldn't be in government.
And you completely changed it by saying Christians shouldn't be in power, or
We're saying the
Christianity
same
shouldn't be
thing.
in power. No,
You think
no, we're
what's the
absolutely not.
semantic distinction? What's the semantic distinction?
Because what you're talking about, Christians shouldn't be in government, means banning people that practice a certain religion from serving in government. I don't believe in that. It's
No.
It's them
No.
imposing
The
their.
semantic distinction between power and government. Clearly, if Christians have governmental authority, they have power. Like we're talking about the same thing. We're not talking past each other here. So the thing is, very quickly, because I only have so much time, if it is the case that Christians shouldn't be in government, but if Christians were,
That's not my
that what-
claim.
your claim isn't that okay? Christianity shouldn't be in government.
Yes.
Okay. So wait a second. So if Christians are in government, Christianity is not in government?
I address this earlier because I said if a Christian serves in government and their beliefs overlap with the current structure of the Constitution or whatever, then there's no problem with that, because the Establishment Clause doesn't say we will ban, or we're going to do the opposite of all religions, because I mean that would just
then
be
help
stupid.
me. Okay, bro. So anytime Christians then who utilize their normative ethical authority for things like abortion in government, that's wrong. They shouldn't do that.
If they're imposing their specific religious beliefs on other people, then that's a violation of, I think that creates dysfunctional governments. That's a violation of the First Amendment. Even if you argue that we could just get rid of the First Amendment, I think history shows us that creates dysfunctional governments. And
Hang on. No.
Government's not
This doesn't make,
supposed to be
bro. You got to back
dysfunctional.
way. Okay, we got to back way up.
Real
Okay.
fast, just under 10 minutes remaining. I did add about
Okay,
a minute
great.
and a half
I
for
appreciate it.
clarifications.
Okay,
No
so
problem.
just very quickly, Mr. Peterson, if the Supreme Court justices are Catholic, and a lot of them are now, and their interpretation, they're interpreting the law, right? They're also using, part of their interpretation is going to be their normative ethical framework, because that's how interpretation works.
Mhm.
If they're using their Christian normative ethical framework, do you actually have a problem with that?
So if I had a problem with that would mean that I would just have to ban Christianity, but that doesn't actually make any sense. A Christian, we went over this earlier, anybody can believe whatever a Christian believes at the same time. So we can't just ban them from serving in government. That just wouldn't make any sense.
Then
Even
your
if-
whole proposition's destroyed. If the idea
No.
is Christianity shouldn't be in government, but Christians can go in and rule based on their normative ethics, then you don't have a claim. Your claim's destroyed. Listen, I'm
If
just going to, I'll
those-
give it to you in premises. I'm going to give it to you in premises so that you understand, right? Christians should be allowed in government. True or false?
True.
Christians in government should be allowed to reference their normative framework when making decisions in a governmental role. True or false?
Not exactly true.
What does that mean?
Because they can believe in things that are in congruence with the Constitution and with everybody else in general, and that can happen to be something Christians believe in. They're not the only ones that believe in the golden
Yeah,
rule.
but they can
for
amend the
example.
Constitution. They can just amend the Constitution. And then if they do amend the Constitution, they can, any of their normative framework, they
Yeah.
followed your entire law.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So then why shouldn't they be allowed to do that?
First of all, because as I've said a whole bunch of times, I think it creates dysfunctional governments, but this would also lead to potentially Andrew Wilson being subject to whatever the Pope says, because maybe that's the Christian framework we end up with, but you reject that. So according to Andrew Wilson doesn't want this to happen.
What are you talking? What kind of weird straw man nonsense is this? According to Andrew Wilson, he doesn't want the Pope. And what the fuck are you talking? We're talking about you and your view, not Andrew Wilson's. You had a chance to grill Andrew Wilson's view. Your view, sir, is that it's perfectly acceptable for Christians to change the Constitution if they are elected by their constituency. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so then if Christians who are elected by their constituency change the Constitution in order to allow Christian stuff, whatever you think that is, how can you possibly say that they shouldn't be able to do that when this is the proposition itself, that they shouldn't be in government, yet they should be allowed to go in and change every facet of government? That, sir, is its proposition and its negation, an actual contradiction.
Because it creates dysfunctional governments. And the other thing is, like, it's a totally functional government, dude. Totally functional. What do you mean? It's following your rules. Christians go in, they change it via an amendment, and then they rule based on the changed amendments, which is exactly what you claim we should be doing. It's like calling fascism a functional government. It
was a functional government.
That doesn't mean that I accept it or that I think it's good.
Yeah, but your whole claim here is like it's dysfunctional to not allow Christians to serve in government.
Yeah,
it's actually it's dysfunctional to not allow Christians to serve in government. If Christians go into the government and serve and then amend the Constitution, which they're allowed to do because they're in government, and then change it to make a bunch of whatever Christian stuff legal that you don't like, right? They're literally following your very process. So your proposition is Christianity shouldn't be in government, but its negation is, yes, Christians should be in government and should be allowed to change the amendments in government so that, yes, they should be allowed to do this. Should be allowed to change the amendments in government. No, Christians shouldn't be allowed to change amendments in government if they're elected?
I'm just disagreeing with. I know where this is going already. That's why I'm shaking.
It's your proposition and its negation, and I'll just give it to you again. And I really do need a response to this. The proposition is Christianity shouldn't be in government. Its negation is, okay, Christians should be allowed in government, and they should be allowed to change anything they want in government as long as they're following the rules that are there. And then when they change the rules, which is completely fine, right, for Christian-y stuff, you don't have a problem with that because that's the form of government.
I do have a problem with that because...
What's the problem?
Just because it can be done... Like, we have open elections, so it's theoretically possible that a Nazi could be elected president. That doesn't mean that I have to accept that should happen or that it's good that it would happen.
No. Shouldn't. Wait, are you saying Nazis shouldn't be allowed in government?
Technically, I don't think that is illegal or anything.
Yeah, right. So if they shouldn't, so you're saying Nazis should be allowed in government. So if Nazis are allowed in government and then they change the government,
banned, that doesn't mean I think that they should be. It's like free speech. I think
I'm not asking if you think Nazis. I didn't ask if Nazis should be allowed in government. I asked you I asked you this question specifically. Should Nazis be allowed to be in government? Allowed.
So this is, I'm not trying to give you a Weasley answer, but it's like free speech. I don't think it's good. I don't like it when the government says these are the things you should and shouldn't say. But that doesn't mean that I find it acceptable.
Nazis be allowed to serve in government, yes or no?
No, but I don't think that it should be illegal for a Nazi to be in the government. That's the difference.
So they should be allowed to serve in government.
If you frame it that way,
one more time, should Nazis be allowed to serve in government? Yes or no?
In that framing, then yes.
So
I don't think it
I'm
should
going to ask
be
you again.
illegal.
I need it specifically answered. Should Nazis be allowed to serve in government? Yes or no?
It shouldn't be illegal. So yes, in that sense.
Yes.
Yeah. But
okay. Okay,
Because
so
I don't know
hang
if
on,
you're
hang on.
trying to get me
Hang
to be
on, I
like,
just want
oh,
to make sure. Hang on.
Peterson
No,
likes the
I'm
idea
not
of
trying
Nazis
to,
in
bro. I'm
government,
not trying to clip
or
it. I'm
think it
just
would
trying
be
to show you
good. Yeah.
that if it's the case, then that Nazis who should be allowed to be in government go into the government and then change all the shit in the government to make it all Nazified, they should be allowed to do that, right? Because they're following the process of government, right?
Again, this is odd because it's like can versus should.
No, should.
I think it would be
Should.
wrong.
No,
Because
stop,
we know
stop.
fascism isn't a
No,
functional
bro.
kind of government.
Listen to me. Listen to me. If you say Nazis should be allowed in government, then they should be allowed to do their job in government, right?
If they should be, then they should. Yet again, that doesn't mean that I accept whatever amendments they would
You
do and
just
that they are
answer my
good.
question. I'm not asking you for qualifiers. I'm not interested. I just want you to actually answer the questions I ask. Should Nazis, if they're in government, do their job? Should they do their job that they were
Yeah.
put there to do? So if the constituency of a bunch of Nazis puts Nazis in the government to do the job of changing the amendments to make it more Nazi-ish, they should do that, right?
No.
No. Why not? I don't understand.
Just because you
I
can
honestly
amend
don't-
an
I
amendment
don't
doesn't
get this
mean that
now.
you
Now I'm
should
super
amend an
fucking confused.
amendment.
So let me get this right. I'm not asking for the normative ought of whether or not you think the amendment's good or bad. That's not, I don't care if you think the amendment good or amendment bad, only if you think that Nazis should be allowed to change the amendments to make shit more Nazi. Should they be allowed to do that? If a bunch, so in other words,
Not if you want a functional government, no.
if 2/3 of the states elected Nazis and they went to Capitol Hill, okay, and they said, hey, we want a new amendment that says there's going to be a new Third Reich, right? Somewhere. I don't know how they phrase it, okay? They should be allowed to follow the process of government. Not is the amendment good or bad? I'm not asking that should claim. Only should they be allowed to do that based on the prescription of the government that you advocate for?
I guess technically, yes. That doesn't mean
Yes.
it has my endorsement or that I
Then-
think it would be functional.
Perfect. I'm not saying you endorse it,
because-
bro.
Yeah, I
Bro,
know.
I'm not saying you endorse it.
Yeah, I know.
Listen,
There's a
so
minute and
often,
a half remaining.
okay, very quickly. Then this same logic would apply to Christianity. Should Christians be allowed to serve in government? Yes. Should, if they're there, should they do their job based on what their constituency wants? Yes. And if they follow all of the laws in order to make Christian stuff, they should be allowed to do that. Also, yes, the proposition is now negated. This is a performative contradiction you've been caught in, because when you say Christianity shouldn't be in government, however, Christians should be allowed to change government to make it into Christianity, you negated your own proposition.
I just don't agree on that at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Because
logic
the
disagrees with it.
reasons that I stated Christianity shouldn't be in government are because that would make it could potentially, or could, whatever, it doesn't matter, lead to a more dysfunctional government, one that disenfranchises people.
Let me ask you one last question, just one last question, very quickly.
Which
Should
is not
pedophiles
supposed
be allowed in government?
I think most of them are, but
Yeah, should they be allowed in government?
no, I don't think so. I think there are certain things, because that's a felony, I believe. So no, I don't think felons should be in
They didn't get a
government.
no. They did it when they were like, I don't know, just under the legal age or something. Like 2 days before the legal age, right? And it wasn't a felony for whatever reason, right? They got away with a misdemeanor. Should they be allowed to serve in government?
Are you talking about a pedophile or
time, but
somebody
you
who
can
got a
finish up here.
misdemeanor?
Yeah, pedophile. Just let him answer this last question like I did him the service of doing.
of
Should
course.
pedophiles who are only convicted of misdemeanors be allowed to serve in government?
I don't think
In
so.
fact, here's an easy one. Should pedophiles who just say that they're attracted to children but have never actually acted on it, should those pedophiles be allowed in government?
Sounds like a bad idea.
So no, they shouldn't be?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. So then we'll just follow the law when you want to follow the law and then not follow it when you don't want to follow it. All right. Fair enough. All right.
You didn't ask me.
I'm good.
Okay, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So-
did. I asked you if they should be allowed to be in government. Should they be allowed to be in government? You can reframe the answer. Should pedophiles be allowed to be in government?
No.
No. Okay. Well, then you're just only applying the law when you choose to apply the law. Thank you.